Taylor. Yeah, I'm so excited because this is data driven, and it's tested. I think everybody looks at websites all day, most of us on the phone, and, we've all got our opinions, our gut feelings, but we really tested this out. So this is going to be fantastic. Thank you so much, Taylor. And so what we learned, Jason, what did we learn?
We learned a lot. Hopefully I don't go too fast and I can get all the information in. I'm known for having way too much information and trying to cram it into a short period of time. So we're going to break this down to what we thought were the key sections. And we're going to start with the number one thing we found, which is identifying the key site sections and placing them above the fold on the home page for both desktop and mobile. So currently only 40% of customers are entering through the home page. That means 60% of the customers, because of the advancements in SEO and crawlers and all of those things, are entering somewhere other than the home page. So when they get to your home page, how do you get them as fast as possible to where they want to be? If you focus on your top 3 to 5 site sections on mobile, we saw 72% engagement above the fold. And engagement in this case, there was only one engagement metric to track, and that was click to one of those top 3 to 5 site sections. So keeping those 3 to 5 site sections above the fold on desktop and mobile drove 72% of people being able to click. That means they didn't even have to go to your navigation. They found exactly what they were looking for without having to scroll on the page. That means they're moving through faster. They're not upset about the experience. They don't feel like they had to hunt for anything. So how would you identify those key site sections? I recommend Google Analytics. We have lots of people on the phone, most of which have Google Analytics installed. So you have to start by logging into Google Analytics. Once you're
Jason,
there,
before you review this, I want to do a quick poll. I want to see how many of our dealers are currently doing this before we show them how. So tell us, are you currently tracking the top performing sections of your website? I'm going to leave it up here for a minute. We did get a question already that I really enjoyed. Kim asked, is there a way to be notified of changes from the OEM or updates or fantastic things that are happening on the Sincro websites, both for compliance, I think, and just what's cool and new? So I'm going to follow up with Kim, but Jason and Taylor, anything you recommend other than, registering for the Sync newsletter? Any other ways you recommend Kim stays in the know?
I would definitely suggest following the blog post. We're launching a lot of features in the blog post. We also do what everybody is seeing in announcements. Our content and support teams know about them, our website performance managers. So multiple ways to stay connected. A lot of features get released. There's ways to subscribe. There's a new learning module coming out. I'm sure Taylor has some other ideas about how to just make sure you stay in the know while we're sharing these poll results. It looks like 67% are already tracking their top performing sections of their website. This is great news because it's going to make the next step I talk about easier.
Yes, fantastic. So now tell us for the 33%, if my math is right, real quick, how do we do this? What should we be doing?
Yeah, so I would start by logging into Google Analytics, as I said. And we want to click on the behavior section. Once you're in Google Analytics, there is one that says behavior. It's on the left-hand side of the screen if you're looking at your Google Analytics in a desktop browser. Then once you're in the behavior section, there is a section called site content. And then when you click on that, it's going to expand a menu. In that menu, you want to click landing page content. Google Analytics is built for all industries, right? So they don't know that a vehicle search results page is not a landing page, it's a vehicle search results page. We kind of treat the names of things differently in automotive, but you still want to go ahead and click on the landing page content. And then there you are, you're looking at the top pages. So you can see that the home page of this dealership that we took a screenshot of is getting 19% of their pages. Their page views are for the home page. But now you're going to have to do some of your own calculations as you scroll through this list. Like, do you want to do all vehicles or do you want to separate pre-owned and new? Or could you copy this into a spreadsheet and break it out and formulate it. But for example, number 4 and number 7 for me are both about new vehicles. So I'm going to combine those and add the 230 and the 504 into my new vehicles section. Now this one is interesting to me because most dealers not in the East Coast, pre-owned will total more than new. And I do like keeping them separate so I can see if there's a reason to keep them separate. You can also see how many sessions there were, how much time they're spending on that page, but you really want to add these up and find out what are your top 3 to 5 site sections where your customers are ending up anyway, so that you can get them there as fast as possible. The number 2 thing we learned is shoppers will engage with real inventory more than they will engage with a hero slide. So those rotating banners, what we're learning is 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the chance that your customer saw the marketing message was slim, right? The internet has evolved, the way people shop has evolved. Now the chance that somebody's already seen your marketing message is probably what drove them to your website. When they get to your website, they want to take action. They don't want to have to be marketed to again. You now have shifted from a marketing website to a merchandising website. Get that merchandising up there, get it to where it's going to get used. And if possible, with the website platform you use, tailor that experience. So put real inventory with real links to vehicle details pages so that I don't even have to end up on a vehicle search results page to get directly to a vehicle that might interest me. And you should tailor that to the consumer's previous shopping behavior. So if I've spent the last 30 days looking at an SUV and I'm a Ford dealer, I should probably show Ford Explorers as the first vehicles in that container. Now you can style this in many different ways. You can see here it's next to an inventory search and it's only one vehicle. I could put 3 vehicles there. I could put 4 vehicles there. I can stack it on mobile. Lots of different options on how you present this, but presenting real inventory that has a high probability of a customer being interested in that, actually when put in the exact same place as a rotating banner, shows 26% more vehicle engagement and views and 3 times more clicks than a traditional marketing message shown in a rotating banner.
This is really powerful data. Before you move on, I want to mention we got a note in the chat that I think you're going to love. Sue mentioned that this is the kind of stuff, and the previous recommendation about checking what landing pages are getting the most hits. Stu reviews this with her WPM Mariola every other week. So this is the kind of conversations you should be having. We know you're having, but make sure you're having them internal with your own teams as well. So love that from Sue.
Very good. So now let's not forget about fixed ops. In the average gross profit of your service and parts department is 49% versus the other departments. Also, let's not forget about how pure these dollars are, right? What's the net profitability? New and used cars are still, 3 to 7 cent dollars on gross profit, and service and parts, last time I looked, is still about an 85-cent dollar. Let's make sure that you can focus on the service and parts department. Now, when you did your initial look at Google Analytics, you might have bucketed your schedule service page, your service and parts department landing page, service and parts specials page, all the stuff to do with service and parts into one category of service and parts. But now let's break those down into what were the top 3 to 5 sections of service and parts that were actually generating traffic, and make sure we get those on the homepage for quick access. This is an actual look at a dealer I did an analysis on in Google Analytics, and they actually had 4 sections. The 4 things that accounted for where 90% of their service and parts customers were ending up was their scheduled service page, their service specials, and their tire finder, as well as the click to calls to the service and parts department were significantly higher than the click to calls for other departments. So I focused on 4, and I chose to use icons and buttons, but we'll talk about that when we talk about what we want to focus on and how you make this look and feel on your dealer page, because not everybody has to do the same thing. It's really about understanding your consumer and your market, which is why we couldn't just go out there and build a template and say, hey, everybody use this template and you're going to increase engagement. Not everybody's metrics are the same. Not everybody's business units are the same. Not everybody's business goals or inventory levels are the same. So there really is a reason to continuously look at these statistics and see if you're driving the behavior and moving people through your site to increase those email lead conversions, the click-to-call conversions, the call tracking volume that's going through your call tracking numbers for those who call through a desktop. So with that, I think we have a poll for you.
We do. So, these are great recommendations. I want to find out, do you have these fixed operations links on your homepage? I think probably everybody's got a scheduled service, hopefully up in the header easy. But, I reviewed landing pages with a dealer yesterday, Jason, and we were surprised to find the body shop was getting so many hits. I think the example you had body shops up high too. So, reviewing that, making it easier for customers to get into fixed ops. I think your service manager will love you, of course. But your customers will love it as well. So I'm going to close it. Good news. Don't worry if you didn't vote. High percentage, 94% of you are already doing this really well. So I love the icons and the examples you gave just for some new design ideas. Fantastic.
So let's break this down to how it looks on a home page. You have to start with those 3 to 5 key site sections that your customers are trying to get to anyway. This should account for 85% or more of your traffic in 3 to 5 site sections when you look at your Google Analytics. Now, getting them there faster will increase the engagement. It will drive those leads and those click-to-calls because of ease of use. Now, when you're putting these above the fold, there are lots of ways to do this. You don't have to do it the way that I did it here. All I did was pick some icons and some buttons, and I actually chose to put it on a background with a little bit of a marketing message, the up to 15% off MSRP on most 2020 models. So I still got a little marketing message in there, but I didn't make it the entire page and distract from, they might be trying to get somewhere in my site fast, but I still put a message that would resonate. You don't have to put that message. You could put just buttons. I've seen just hyperlinks work. I've seen really quality images that had words on like an image that had a gradient on it so that it was still Americans with Disabilities compliant. Lots of different ways to get to these 3 to 5 top site sections, but you really got to focus on those above the fold. Then the inventory search. You saw in the original, there was an inventory search by keyword. You can use keyword inventory search. You can use drop-down inventory search. You can use both of them together. But when you go look at Google Analytics, I'm going to predict that 70% or greater of your landing page analysis in Google Analytics is going to be about inventory. If 70% are trying to get there and they chose not to just click shop all your new or shop all of your pre-owned, then you are going to want to make sure that they have an immediate way to get to inventory. Now, there are some things about those buttons that I hadn't mentioned, which is that the words matter. For example, search new vehicles does not perform as well as shop new vehicles. Same thing with pre-owned. I actually have it as explore pre-owned, but shop pre-owned would work better than explore pre-owned. The word shop, when I'm going to look for something that's a product, is a better performing word than the other words you could use before that. So starting those call to actions or images or hyperlinks or whatever you're going to do with the word shop, this is that qualitative and quantitative research we did. We used some shop, we used others, and then we saw how many people clicked the button, right? We tied button name to button clicks as a percentage of visitors to find out what was actually going to work. If you are going to use inventory dropdowns, you really need to have those to 4 or less. And when those 4 or less are present, you need to make sure that those are not things that people don't understand, like the word category. You need to make sure that that says new or used. People are more likely to know what segment. Think about it. If one of your highest site sections was used vehicles, you do not want to put make model first. the likelihood of somebody knowing the exact make and model of a car they want, I'm not saying make and model shouldn't be one of your 4 drop downs. What I'm saying is that you should move vehicle type to the front of that so that I can say, I just want a used SUV or a new truck. So that way I don't have to try and decide. It's amazing to me in customer surveys and the JD Power surveys, how many people didn't know the name of the model they were looking for and struggled to find what the latest truck is called or what the latest
Yeah.
SUV is called or what they wanted.
Yeah, no, that it is surprising and not, because I think of how many options there are, and we all work with vehicles all day, so it seems funny to us, but to customers out there, this is new. This is a once every 3 to 5 year process. Lisa has a question. I love that you talked about the categories and being able to change that. I think we forget that sometimes. Lisa wants to know, does pre-owned rank higher than used in the research?
It actually, there is no correlation. I was looking for that same correlation. I had that same thought that if I call it used versus pre-owned or pre-driven, certified does stand out. People like certified vehicles, whether it's manufacturer or dealer certified. Certified does stand out, but what we did find is if you don't align all your messaging, then we saw a decline. So we have a dealer who advertises used vehicles and everything on their site says pre-owned. It's
Gotcha.
not having the disconnect that really made that matter. It actually wasn't the word used or pre-owned. For me, I prefer pre-owned, and it doesn't affect me as long as I have that consistently across all the pages of my site, all of the naming conventions on my site. And I do like calling out the category because it's amazing in the industry, right? Even if I go to third party sites, some of them call it category or condition. Like,
Right,
am I
right.
supposed to know as a consumer that condition means new or used, or is that supposed to mean wrecked or not wrecked, right? Like,
Right, right.
we
Yeah.
name these
I,
things, we make it so confusing.
yeah, I prefer one with 4 wheels. Where do I indicate that on here? It is. It's real confusing. So I love that, making sure everything's consistent. But these are the details that I think day to day we forget we can control, especially here on the Syncro website. So, whether you're with us or a different provider, make sure you're talking to your support team to go through details like this. It's so important. And I love what you've got next with real inventory. This is one of the coolest things that we do.
Yeah, so making sure you can put actual inventory, so real inventory with the photos that you have in the system, whether those are dealer photos or manufacturer photos. You can break this up by new or used, but getting real inventory there. And after you get the new inventory there, you can then make sure you tailor it to the experience that a customer may have had before they arrived at your site. And then a visual representation of your available models. Again, surprising to most of us, but customers don't know what the latest truck, latest SUV. It surprises me that somebody doesn't know what an Explorer or a Tahoe is, but if you've owned a Sequoia for 20 years or a Land Rover Discovery, you may not know what it is and you may not be able to tell the size. So add a visual representation of your models. Tailor those to their previous shopping behavior. In this particular case, I broke them out by trucks, cars, and SUVs and have all 3 displayed on desktop and mobile. And then you can rotate through the additional ones. A lot of people just have them broken in. I like presenting all 3 so that somebody doesn't have to click an additional button, and it increases the engagement on that. And then you end up with your call to actions for service and parts. It is the lowest, typically the lowest percentage in Google when you're looking at these page views. So then you want to have the service and parts department. Once you continue past that for your homepage optimization, little bonus knowledge here, you can put that marketing message. Because when you put the marketing message at the top and you get that 3 to 5% click engagement with a rotating banner at the top, if you put it as the 5th item on this page, you're going to keep that 3 to 5% engagement because the person who's looking for the marketing message isn't going to resonate with the stuff at the top anyway. So they'll make it to that marketing message and engage with it and still move through the site. Now we do have dealers who are getting a 20% plus engagement on those marketing messages and rotating banners on desktop and getting over 15% on mobile. in the study, when we found the dealers who were getting that level of engagement, having that rotating banner at the top of the page, they do a lot of specific things. They're very creative, focused on their local market. They have a message. They never have more than 3 of those rotating banners. So 100% of the customers see 100% of their banners, right? The average customer spends just over 4 seconds on there, which allows you to see the first, second, and preview the third before they scroll down on the page. So there are times where that rotating banner is going to not perform as well when you move it down, but those are never having more than 3, always making sure that it's tailored if your platform allows that. So if I've been shopping trucks, that's a truck banner with local messaging, local offers. We don't see many dealers who have that high of an engagement, but in our testing, the dealers who did have that high of an engagement and moved it down were not able to maintain that engagement. And it actually made more sense to move that back up, then go to their call to actions and make their call to actions not icon or photo based, just simple buttons, because we wanted them to still make it above the fold, so that it took some work for those dealers who had that high engagement. You also have to take into consideration that some manufacturers, so we'll do what you asked, but some manufacturers are going to have a preference to have that messaging and that go-to-market messaging, or some may even have a requirement that you have to put that at the top. So we always recommend consulting your manufacturer guidelines versus what we're telling you here of what in particular order we saw work best, testing thousands of sites and thousands of words on how to pull this off and the engagement metrics for clicks. There are going to be some cases where your manufacturer is not going to allow you to do something like that. And it makes sense, right? If we're to a state of merchandising versus marketing, why these case studies work is because the 3 to 5% who engage with a marketing message are going to engage with that message regardless if it takes a couple seconds longer to get to that marketing message, but they'll scroll past this stuff pretty fast.
Sure. No, and I'm glad you brought that up, and I'll let you move on. I know we're going to talk about inventory next, but Deborah had the question, does this mean that I just eliminate my hero slides? And the answer is no. Test it out. Cover your behinds, as Jason said. Make sure you are staying compliant with your OEM requirements. But testing this out for yourself, we've got these tips and recommendations based on data, but making sure it works for your site is critical, especially with the next step we've got coming up on inventory, which I love these recommendations.
Yep, and some people, it has been best to remove their rotating banner. It takes out all the work. They come up with new ways to get that messaging in the experience, which we'll talk about. Some people aren't willing to give up that 3 to 5%. We've done this for dealers where we removed it, and then overall engagement on the homepage was 70%, right? And you get that 20% bounce rate, and then we take away the hero and it goes down to 67%, and you go to a 23% bounce rate. I'd rather have the 20% bounce rate, make sure that I have that marketing message, because I'm of the mindset that I'd like to get as many customers as I can, and removing the rotating banner altogether versus just moving it down on the page increase my bounce rate a little bit, or people who didn't take action. Because on Sincro, we track bounce rate not just as somebody who leaves in under 7 seconds, but somebody who takes no action. And we don't count scrolls as an action like some providers do. So if they scroll down the page all the way to the bottom and spend 20 seconds on there, to us, they still took no action. So that's a bounce. Even if they called you, we wouldn't count that, because we didn't track a click, a movement through the inventory, more than certain second hover on a piece of inventory or a banner. So when we saw the dealers who we saw that for, it didn't make sense to completely remove the hero.
Makes sense. Perfect. Thank you.
So the number 4 learning is about the vehicle search results page, because we did see over 70% in every case of people going to inventory pages like search results and details pages, and it being the majority of the traffic. You have to streamline that vehicle search results page. You can't give information overload. You can't give too many options to drive a lead. It's decision paralysis. You have to use the right words in those buttons. Clean it up. like we were talking about in the beginning, people are on the internet all the time, and every site you look at that sells a product looks exactly the same. If you go to Amazon's version of a vehicle search results page, or Walmart's, or Home Depot, or Lowe's, or Gilt.com, or Macy's, it doesn't matter. They're all the same. Picture, title, price, and either 0 or 1 button. The majority have 0 buttons, and everybody knows you just click on the picture because consumers are used to shopping. They want to shop before they buy, and shopping means looking at the options, deciding which one I want more details on, and this applies to any product, right? It doesn't matter what the product is. Okay, I've got 20 blenders to choose from. I don't need to know what the speed of the blender is and the size of this, and if it's Ninja certified and can chop my strawberries into a million pieces, whatever the case may be, until I find the one from the basic information like the price or pictures that I can scroll through. So you want to make sure that you're behaving like every other site out there and showing them what they need to make a quick decision and decide which ones they want to have more information on. So
Yeah,
what
but
is
before you move on, we have a question from Shay. So I love this, making the image bigger. I think if you can go back a slide, Jason, Shay is asking, so we're not saying remove the price on the SRP or the VSR. I think in the example we have on the right, you're saying highlight savings and just make it more evident.
Yep, especially if you are representing a manufacturer who does a lot of their tier 1 and tier 2 advertising from the OEM and your local markets, that drives a savings message, right? You're starting to see those in online TV and the Hulus of the world and the sporting events. If they're saving this much, sometimes it's good to highlight that. If your manufacturer doesn't do that, maybe you do MSRP and price, but you definitely need picture, title, price on the search results page, because that's what you see on everybody else's search page for products.
Yeah, no, and I think that makes sense. And just remembering there are so many ways you can customize your VSR and VDP. And actually, before you move on to VDP, I'm going to do one final poll. When was the last time you reviewed these pages for formatting changes? There are so many different things we can do, and so remembering to go through it is something that can fall off the radar. We focus on the home page so much, we need new landing pages, but VSR VDP with so much engagement, it's critical. So I am going to go ahead and close it. It looks like this timing of this webinar is good, Jason and Taylor, because just over half of people have reviewed in the last 30 days, but it's been a while for some of our other friends here on the webinar. So we just talked about the search results, which is right here. Tim's making a comment, too many look like number one, with all those buttons. And this is search results page. So what about buttons on the VDP? I know you're going to talk about it, but two different strategies here, right? From the search results to the actual VDP.
Yep, we're going to want to have more call to actions on the vehicle details page, and we're going to get into that. So that single call to action, again, just align with what customers are used to seeing. And this usually isn't the point they're willing to take an action, but if they are going to take an action, you should allow them to do that. So let's get through what a good search results page looks like. Make sure it has a search bar on it for desktop and mobile. I'm showing the desktop view here, so it's not too tiny for you to look at, right? For desktop in particular, we in this study found that filters across the top actually engage more with the shoppers if the filters are on the top. They will actually spend significantly more time filtering to the vehicles they want if they're on the top versus on the left or on the right. We tested this in multiple different ways across thousands of dealerships, and the top for desktop performs the best. Funny thing is, mobile filters, checking boxes and hitting the apply button, because that's how it works on every other site. We have not found an optimization better than that, but at least we found one for the desktop site. If you add filter tags, that's what we call them, but the ability to quickly filter without having to click any drop downs by clicking single buttons, shoppers will get to their vehicle of interest 5% faster. The way we deem this is because they get to a vehicle and they either submit a lead, click to call, open a chat, they take an action and interact with the vehicle in a new way 5% faster than when you have these turned off. And this one actually is a good example. The network overall was 5%, but we saw this as high as 20%. And before we turned on things other than just features up there, so you can see this one showing cars, trucks, SUVs, cargo vans, regular vans. When we just put it to features like third row seat, heated seat, cruise control, Bluetooth, and we actually tailored those to what was good in that dealer's market, that's how you start breaking into the 20% faster if you can just laser focus on what works for your market. So hopefully on your website, those are configurable. You can choose the order of them. You can choose how many of them. You can choose whether you're just going to show features or not. The next item, everybody wants to know, well, how do I get my marketing message out there? I don't want to give it up. I spend a ton of time building these marketing messages. You're telling me only 40% are coming through the homepage anyway. And if you look at your Google Analytics entries, you should see the same thing. So if I'm not doing a rotating banner, how do I make sure people know, right? So one thing I would argue is some people don't care because they're price driven. They don't care that there's a $10,000 rebate because they can already see there's $10,000 off in your pricing. But if you want to inject offers, you should inject them in the experience like every customer is used to already. Think about it. I don't care whether you're on Walmart or Amazon. Some of them say sponsored or guild.com, or I like Cole Haan shoes. There'll be a suggested pair of shoes that's on sale. Inject an offer directly into the experience. So you can see here for both desktop and mobile, select Equinoxes are on manager special. Just show me those 6 vehicles. So this is taking, and you can do this for those messages. You want a 10 grand off, you want a 5,500 in rebates on these particular vehicles. You want to custom write some messages here and have them injected so that every 5th, 6th listing on the page is one of those offers to engage a customer. So we're not saying don't put the offers in front of them, just inject them into the experience where they're relevant. Don't put banners across the top of the search results page because those banners likely don't apply to everybody there. And they may not scroll down to see that there's actually inventory on this page. They might feel duped, like, why did I just end up on a page with a bunch of advertising?
Right. I was just going to ask you that. And because I love this view. I think there's so many people who just took a screenshot of this and are emailing their WPM, I want this. So you prefer it here instead of the banner, because you're exactly right. Some of those banners can be real big, especially on mobile, where if you don't scroll, you don't actually see the inventory. So this is your recommendation based on the data that we've seen.
Yeah, I don't want to feel like I'm getting a giant advertisement. Think about how many times you click on clickbait, and when you get there, like, I don't want somebody to feel like they just got clickbaited into clicking, they wanted to come look at my Nissan Altimas and there's a giant Titan banner right there. I don't want to feel duped. Inject that Titan offer into the middle of, so that way it shows up with Titan, so I'm not distracted thinking that there aren't any Altimas on this page.
Sure. Well, and Jason, or maybe Taylor, before you move on, we just got a question from Jason. If there's a quick instructions or a quick how-to, how do you do this on Sincro's platform? How do we do this? Other than talk to your WPM and have them help you with it.
Yeah, so we'll do it for you. Call in the moment support or your website performance manager, either way. But in Sincro's tool, if you go to specials, you can create any kind of special you want. Like, for an example, I like using other, and I will just say $5,000 available rebates on Jason Whizbangs, whatever manufacturer you sell. And then I just select the vehicles that applies to. And then there's a thing in there that says tag. And you just type the word spotlight in the tag and it will spotlight those offers injected into your inventory experience. I believe there's a quick guide and a how-to video.
There is, and I'm going to go ahead and push it through. I'll push it through to Jason's question and I'll put it in the chat as well. We love the tutorials. I love somebody who wants to do it themselves, but as you said, you can call in the moment support, talk to your WPM. They will help you with that for sure.
And then the other piece of the vehicle search results page is quick view. Quick view will drive with the same exact form embedded into a view of the pictures. You're seeing this across all product focused websites, again, where I can hit a quick view and scroll through just the pictures, right? Which might be my key to making a decision. adding the quick view button, if you don't already have it, that opens the photos, you should have a lead form there. When you put a lead form there, you get 8% more leads than just having a get e-price form. So putting the ability to quickly just give me your first name, last name. This one is set up for an OEM who requires zip code, so it has zip code, but like 4 fields, and make the ones you can optional, right? Most of you are part of an OEM program where email is required because they do sales matching on it, so you're never going to be able to turn that off, but don't make the phone number required, make it optional. If you don't have to, don't make zip code required, and just make this as simple as possible. If this is the exact vehicle that they're looking for, let them contact you about it. But quick view will drive more leads than just embedding something. Now, the other piece on here is what the word that is used on the single call to action. You'll notice that there is a single call to action on this page, and that single action has the word request. Request is what will drive clicks to the button, number one, and if you link this to a form, you have multiple options. You need to give multiple ways for the customer to communicate: chat, text, messaging, lead forms. 18% of consumers still say they prefer to email a dealership before making any other type of contact. So you've probably already got a chat tool displayed somewhere on here. You could trigger it if you wanted to. You've probably already got your phone numbers displayed in the header. So I still recommend linking this one button to a form, but using the word request is what's going to make this button work. People will click on it and fill out the form more likely. You can look in Google Analytics for your form abandonment rates. If you want to drive your form abandonment rates down, using the word request on the vehicle search results page will help.
Hey, Jason, we got a question, and I'm going to ask it now, and I think you're going to talk about it, from my friend Aaron with Sames Auto Group. Digital retailing link. Do we recommend that on the VSR? Do we keep it on the VDP? What do you think?
So digital retailing links work in both places. They perform better on the details page. It also depends on the digital retailing tool. Remember, a lot of the digital retailing tools are going to take your consumer off site. So they're going to take them to somewhere else. If you're going to take a consumer off site, do you want to take them off your site where you're getting all the metrics and analytics and good data on them while they still may not have found the vehicle that they're looking for? So it works well in both places, but it definitely performs better on the details page once they've selected the vehicle that works for them. Now, if you have a tool that's going to slide out, not take them off the experience, be more injected into the experience, anytime you can keep somebody on your site so that they're not having to flip between browser tabs or pop-ups or different windows in Chrome for mobile or Safari for mobile, that is preferred. Now, if you're a General Motors dealer, having Shop Click Drive here, because of the millions spent on Shop Click Drive, we did do an analysis, and Shop Click Drive actually drove 2 times more clicks and engagement than any other retailing. And I think that's mostly because of marketing and messaging. Customers actually know what that means versus just a buy now button or a work my own deal or a payment. The Shop Click Drive logo. So if you want to get that kind of engagement and you're not a GM dealer and you don't have Shop Click Drive, build your own cool logo. Jason's deal starter, I don't know, and get it out in your marketing and your branding and get it everywhere, and you can increase the engagement of how you get into a digital retailing tool. I also usually get the question, I will never remove my get e-price button. So I don't know if that came in over.
It hasn't, but I was going to ask because I think it makes me a little itchy. It makes some dealers a little nervous because we get all these leads, Jason, from get e-price. So if you're saying request.
Yeah, if you're getting all these leads from get e-price, the one way to get more of those leads is to just change the word get to request. Get is instant gratification in today's world of the internet. Most people who click that, when they hit get, they expect to get the price immediately, not have a form pop up or a chat window or something like that pop up. So if you want to get more get e-price leads, change the word from get to request. And what you'll notice if you track this in Google Analytics is let's say your get e-price form was popped up 5,000 times and it only had a success rate of 1% and had 50 leads. Just by changing it from get to request, you may have 3,000 opens of the request, but you get a 10% or a 2% or a 4% actual completion rate because somebody's not
Sure.
shocked that a form popped up.
Sure. No, that makes sense. I'm going to move you along because we've got about 14 minutes, and I know you've got awesome stuff on VDP. So this is the money page, right? This is where the customer's chosen a vehicle. What should this look like?
Yep, you need to have everything the shopper needs in one view. You should have multiple choices for layouts, but you got to have pictures. People resonate with pictures. You got to have 3 call to actions. I know you only see 2 here, but 3 call to actions. And those call to actions should use some specific words, right? So I'm just going to get right into the details. Customers prefer actual images, even when it comes to new vehicles. And there's a set number that they like for each, which will increase your conversions to click to calls, emails, and chat if you have real photos and the right number. I believe it's 30 for new, or 18 for new, 30 for used. We'll get you some of those numbers. They're in our back-end system in the Vehicle Insights tab. 3 call to actions. The top converting words are check, schedule, and value. So check for extra savings, check availability, check price. The word check is what's working on, and you can link that, right? Check price or check availability could be a click to call link. Schedule test drive, schedule an appointment, schedule a consultation, the word schedule, and then value. The only one we seem to see this in is value your trade, but it has high clicks. You need to do everything you can to not take the shopper off the website. Maximum of 3 CTAs, and they don't have to link to a form. You can link them to chat, text, messaging, calling, whatever you think is best for those particular call to actions. Make sure you incorporate your digital retailing here, whether that's a payment view, a slide out. You might have to take them off site. I still prefer not to, but make sure you have your digital retailing here. And if you really want to get more lead form fill outs, don't make any of those buttons that you did the 3 call to actions for link to a form. Put the form in line. Not having to click a button to open a form that just asks me for my first name, last name, email, and possible phone number, you will get more form fill outs than something that's hidden behind a button if you title this right. You can see here I've titled mine check for extra savings. Ask for some simple information. I just hit a submit button. Now, because it's not a pop-up, it also uses the functionality from your phone where it'll pre-fill your name, last name, email address, and phone number for you. So I don't even have to type anything.
I love this inline form. I love it. It reminds me of, it's like a 5-liner for forms. Like it's just really quick and put your info, and like you said, mobile, it'll autofill. We've got a good question from Dan. Can you have call or chat as your CTA button? I think we've got the example there of call to reserve. So can you have both? Can you have, and I want to make sure I'm understanding Dan's question, you can have a call, CTA, and a chat, correct?
You could, but also having the little picture of the phone in the button and saying something like check availability would perform better than call to reserve from our study.
Yeah.
So still using those same words, or schedule via chat. Schedule appointment via chat, schedule appointment now, and have that open up your chat, right? Like words like that are going to be what gets you more engagement, and you can test it. Remember, we did this network wide, so it might work for you. You can do your own A/B test, run it for a month, and then if next month is similar for typically year over year, your October is the same as your November, use a different word there in November, or try one of the words we did.
Sure. And I know you're going to talk about similar vehicles. So Jason has a question. He didn't know we could move similar vehicles above the fold. Are there any OEM requirements related to similar vehicles, or can we move this anywhere we like?
We can put this anywhere we like. And that's my next thing is for our platform, and this is just one view, right? It's only showing a single vehicle. You can show 3. There's lots of ways to configure this. Again, from a design perspective, the possibilities are endless. But after I've looked at everything you have to show me on this vehicle, whether it's desktop or mobile, think about every other retail site you go to. the very next thing they show you, just in case this isn't perfect, before they show you all the detailed specs and the 40-page description that the manufacturer wrote and all of that stuff, just in case this one didn't hit the mark, the very next thing you see is stuff that you might like as well. That's why you should put similar vehicles here. Then if I want to scroll further down the page, I could see my vehicle at a glance, my specifications, different things like that, really detailed descriptions and specifications. So you should get, if you want to engage your customer like they engage with every other product site, you should have the similar or suggested products easily accessible up high.
Perfect. Let me see. Before you move on to mobile, we got lots of questions. Good stuff. Does Sincro use event tracking on CTAs for attribution purposes? That's from George.
Yes. So our data layer does track all events. If you have Google Analytics implemented, we're passing all of our events. It's just whether Google Analytics is listening to them. So you can get event. We use industry standards. When I say industry, analytics industry standards. So digital.data is our data layer. That's a analytics industry standard. Then .event.click, and then you could track the click events on like a schedule test drive button. That's how we were able to do the analysis of what words work best and export that all and do some interesting things through Excel and Tableau. And
sure.
But yes, you can click. We are transparent completely with every event that fires on your website, even scroll events. Even though we don't count scroll events for bounce, you can see scroll events, click events, all the events that are happening on your website are captured in our data layer. And if Google Analytics is listening for it, they're all passed to Google Analytics or Telium or Adobe, whatever analytics system you're using, you can
sure.
capture all the events.
Awesome. And Tim has a question. I'm guessing these layout recommendations may not be compatible with other website providers. And my note to Tim is, you got to ask, you've got to push, make sure that they are optimizing your VDPs the way that it needs to be. And if it's not possible right now, make sure that they are working on it. Anything else from you, Jason, on this?
No, I would say just ask, right? It never hurts to ask. I would say most dealers don't know that Sincro has 9 pre-built vehicle detail page layouts. And if you don't like any of them, we'll move stuff around in accordance with what you want. I believe most providers should have some kind of functionality to get you what you're asking for. So the key
right.
is starting with the ask. You got to ask for it.
Absolutely. Awesome. Now you've got bonus content for us, I saw.
Bonus is the navigation. So if you want to clean up your experience from a navigation perspective, you should never have more than 3 to 5 items in any dropdown, right? 4 or less sub-navigations. The word shop is the highest converting CTA. So here's a really interesting stat using a tool called Crazy Egg to do some analysis. 90% of the time, a shopper will click whatever is the first item in your dropdown on a main navigation if there are more than 4 sub-navs. So if you have 20 things in your sub-navigation and the first one is the 2021 whiz bang, and your typical customer is looking for new inventory, 90% of the time they'll click on the 2021 whiz bang and get frustrated because they thought whatever was most important would be first in the list and you had too much in your list that they didn't want to read. So you should probably, at least if you're going to not take the recommendation of having 4 or less sub-navigation items, you should at least move view new inventory or shop new inventory to the top. So at least people are getting where they want and don't bounce from your site once they hit a page that they had no interest in looking at, which was the 2021 whiz bang. You also want to make sure that you're showing relevant inventory. So you want to have those models and inventory levels based on real inventory. You should never show a model that has a 0 inventory count on it. And if possible through your provider, it should filter in multiple ways. You should be able to put it by inventory levels. That way the thing you sell the most of is usually what you have the most in stock. You should be able to sort it alphabetically, but you should also be able to have it tailored to any previous shopping experience the customer did before they arrived at your site. So if I just spent the last 10 days researching equinoxes, it doesn't matter whether I picked inventory level or alphabetically, the equinox should show up first. So our key takeaways: identify those key site sections, Shoppers are going to engage with real inventory more than a hero slide. Let's not forget about fixed ops and actually breaking those down into those top 3 to 5 areas of your fixed ops department. Streamline that vehicle search results page, get everything the shopper needs in one view on the VDP, and simplify and reduce your navigation. With that said, track and record it. Remember, we found this didn't work the same for everybody. That's why we had to go into Google Analytics to build these out and build it right for the dealer and find their top 3 to 5 site sections. And while the words work for 1,000 dealers, they may not work for you. So you got to test it, analyze your impact, use Google Analytics, use Google Data Studio, and then start, stop, continue. Decide what you want to start doing, decide what you're going to stop doing, and figure out what you should continue doing because you're already doing it great.
I love this. Thank you so much for taking us through this. We're going to have a few minutes for questions, so if you have any, go ahead and type them in. While I wait to get some of those, we want to make sure, and we will send this deck out to you, but lots of resources, website tips, chat